All right, welcome back, everybody. Welcome to Celebrating Indigenous Wisdom for Modern Challenges. This is our, I believe this is our third section of the day. It's either the second or third section of the day. We've been going since 8 o'clock Colorado time this morning, and we'll be going until about 8:30 this evening, Colorado time. But right now, I have the pleasure of introducing Karenna Gore, the founder of the Center for Earth Ethics. Thank you so much for joining us today, Karenna. I know your schedule's busy, so when you said yes, you would love to join us, I was just so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alicia. It is such a pleasure to be with you, and I'm honored to be part of this extraordinary gathering. I want to say thank you to you and also to Her Many Voices for hosting this beautiful event. And also I want to say Happy Earth Day. Earth Day is a very significant day. It's not a random sort of hallmark designation of a holiday. It really does mark a time 51 years ago today in which there was a new wave of awareness around the fact that we share this home, this beautiful living planet, and it is under threat. And the first Earth Day did lead to new laws and policies, the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, the National Environmental Policy Act. I'm speaking from the United States of America context, which is my context. The awareness around Earth Day really did galvanize real change. And yet we are now in a time where more than ever we need to come together and have a new phase of that movement. I am Karenna Gore. I am the founder and director of the Center for Earth Ethics at Union Theological Seminary. The path that I took that led me to be right here, right now, is that I was very worried about the climate crisis. And I learned that the two main drivers, they call them megatrends, were depletion and pollution. The depletion of the forests and the wetlands and the soils that absorb carbon naturally, and at the same time, the pollution, all of this coming from the industrial processes and systems that goes into this thin shell of atmosphere that we see as the sky, but has a limit in which these gases can build up. And we have seen already that the weather patterns change as a result. We have the stronger storms, the droughts, the wildfires, and so on. And so that pollution comes from the burning of fossil fuels that have been extracted from inside the body of the earth. And so I came to realize that these two megatrends, it's not only that they were happening, the crisis is really that we, as a collective human species, don't seem to be able to properly perceive it and act to change course. And so there's already a lot of data and science and technology, more than enough to prove it and to solve it. But clearly that's not the issue. There's something deeper happening here. This is a spiritual and cultural and moral crisis. And it's specifically about the need for human beings to connect and belong to the earth, to this planet, to our mother.
Absolutely. We forget the connection that we have. We remove ourselves from it. And now is the time to reconnect.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I want to say that traditional indigenous peoples have never lost that connection. That is why they warned us for so long about the trajectory we're on and have done their best to tend to their own cultures and traditions, even amidst the genocidal forces of colonialism and neocolonialism. And so we know today 80% of the world's remaining biodiversity is in the hands of indigenous peoples. And we can see why they are so gifted in helping so many of us understand how we got to this point in order to help us break free, break through, and come back into balance and peace. And so at Center for Earth Ethics, we have this cornerstone program, the Original Caretakers Program, which exists to honor, learn from, and support indigenous peoples. And I am here to introduce the woman who is now the senior fellow for Original Caretakers at Center for Earth Ethics, who is a friend and somebody who I deeply respect as an elder, and that is Mona Polacca. Shimona is a teacher, a facilitator, and a thought leader. She's an enrolled member of the Colorado River Indian tribe, has held positions of responsibility within that community. She's also an elder of Habasupai, Tewa, and Hopi descent who is guided by the original instructions of these peoples. And she's the founder and president and faculty member of the Turtle Island Project, a member of the Healing the Border Project, which is an Indigenous Alliance Without Borders project. And she's a founding member of the International Council of 13 Indigenous Grandmothers. She works so beautifully as a teacher for so many people, with water, with women, with cultures, with communities, with understanding all of the dimensions of this challenge that we're in. And so I am truly honored to present to you Mona Polaka. Thank you.
It's an honor to have you, Mona. Thank you very much. And thank you, Karenna, for that beautiful introduction as well. Mona, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. First of all, I'd just like to greet each and every one of you, Camus, which is a greeting to each and every one of you of this good day, this day that is set aside to acknowledge and recognize the gifts and the blessings of the love and compassion of our Mother, the Earth. And I come to you. I am on the traditional lands and territory of the Tono O'odham Nation in the Tucson, Arizona area, southern Arizona. And I am of the Habasupai, Hopi, and Tewa people, the people of the blue water and the people of the peace, the Pueblo people. So I'm grateful to be here. Thank you very much. I'm glad that I could be part of this program for many, many, many years. As I was growing up, I have heard from my elders about the what's called the original instructions. And the original instructions were teachings that were passed on to us, that were given to us two-legged beings, as human beings, five-fingered ones, as we identify ourselves among Indigenous people, and also as the people. And all over the world, there are these human beings who have not separated themselves from the land, from the water, and all of nature. And these are Indigenous cultures that have an unbroken chain that extends back from that time, we say, when we originated into this world. And from that time, we were told and given instructions about how we were to live here on Mother Earth and how we were to take care of her because she takes care of us. And that we would pass this knowledge. It was our responsibility to pass this knowledge on, and our way of being, our way of living, to pass it on to our children, grandchildren, and the future generations, that we were to maintain this a way of our ethics and our heritage of how to live here, how to live on Mother Earth. And so we have been carrying on throughout the world. Indigenous people continue to maintain their original instructions on how to live in the part of the world where the Creator put them, and also that it's also our if you look at the world, if you look at Mother Earth, you will see that just as Karenna just mentioned, that the Indigenous people steward 80% of the global biodiversity. And if you look at Mother Earth, you would see the contrast between where the lands of the indigenous people are that remain pretty much the way it was when they originally established themselves here on Mother Earth at those locations. So we have been carrying on these ways, and if you look at the various regions of Mother Earth, how let's say, look at the Arctic Circle, the people of the Arctic, and how they live, and how they are able to sustain themselves in the Arctic, where I know I certainly wouldn't be able to go up there and be able to adjust or survive in that environment. And on the other hand, the indigenous people of the Arctic to come down into the desert lands of southern Arizona, or else to go to the desert lands of Africa, they would not be able to survive. I mean, it would be very difficult, and it would take the goodwill and compassion of the indigenous people of those places to embrace them and to show them how to survive, share the survival skills with them, the survival knowledge of what to eat, how to keep themselves warm, or how to survive in the desert climates. And so this is, this is what we're faced with here today. And so survival is something that we as indigenous people have always been instructed to we've all been instructed to maintain those practices about how we are to maintain this delicate balance. And this is what my mother told me. She said, we live in a very delicate balance. Her people, the Havasupai people who are living at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, and their land base where they live, their village is 1 mile wide and 3 miles long. And she told me that we live in a very delicate balance. We must maintain that balance in order for us to continue to exist. And oftentimes, when we're talking about the world, when we talk about populations, what is it, 8 billion people, something like that? I'm not sure anymore, but I know when it comes to us as indigenous people, for instance, again, the Havasupai people, there are about, let's say, at the most 800 Havasupai tribal members. That's pretty small. And so we're very conscious about survival. We're very conscious about maintaining our sacred instructions about how to live in this delicate balance, which also includes, living with the seasons and how the seasons are, knowing what the seasons will be and how to prepare for them and how to make sure that the children and are instructed on how to prepare, for their own survival. And of course, the number one things that we need for our survival is to have water, to have clean air, to have the land to where we're going to live, our land base on Mother Earth, and to have our foods. And our indigenous people, we have our food systems that have been passed on again throughout time. And so it's important for us to continue to maintain that. And so we were told, I was told as a young lady, that there would come a time when the indigenous people would remind the ones who have forgotten about how to take care of our mother, the earth, and how to make sure that we maintain that delicate balance. And so our voice today is being included, and I'm really grateful for that. That the indigenous people are being able to come to the table, so to speak, to share the knowledge and the wisdom of the original instructions.
I think across the board, it seems like indigenous peoples, and it does not matter where your peoples are from, it seems that there has been prophecy that says now is our time. Stories have been shared, whether you are here in the tribal lands. I mean, I am sitting here of the lands of the Arapaho and the Cheyenne and the Navajo and Shoshone, and they're in Apache. This is the land of the peoples here. And I've heard the stories of now is the time for indigenous peoples to lead the way. From my people, from the Tsalagi people, from Cherokee people, the Eastern Band, the same thing. I've heard the stories from the Sami people, from Finland, the same thing. Mm-hmm. And from African nations, the same. Now is the time. It is to be reminded. We have forgotten. It is to be reminded. I spoke earlier about, I truly believe that it is the whisper of our ancestors. Every life, every time someone comes into this world, it is the whisper of the ancestors of who we are. And then society, over the next 5 or 6 years, tells us to ignore that. Ignore your imagination. That's just your imagination. Children know. They are close to spirit, to source. They know. And then we spend the rest of our days reminding ourselves and each other of who we are and why we are, our purpose and our connection with Mother and all. So I thank you for sharing these words, Mona, because it's so crucial to our future ancestors, for those generations to come. I look to my children, to my girls, for that guidance. I sit quietly oftentimes now to listen to what they have to say. And I continue to do the same with younger people. I don't know if you were able to see earlier, we had some of the youth. We had youth from Latvia as well as youth from Colorado that spoke, and from Haiti. And we will have more a little bit later today.
Wow. Yeah. Great. Yes. It's important to include everyone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's certainly because we lost our way along the way, and we've left a little bit. Actually, we've left a large mess for our future, for our children and theirs.
Mm-hmm.
So we have an obligation and accountability that we have to atone for.
Right.
So, and it's in your leadership and yours as well, Karenna, that those changes get to happen. This awareness is key. You know, there are a number of people we cannot, they don't know what to do until you tell them.
Right.
It's
Right.
not so much of a denial for them. It's just, I need guidance. Maybe I don't have an awareness. How many came to the lands when it was Dakota Access crisis moment, which still continues? How many from all over the world came in support of and said, how do we help? And also, how do we relate to this on our own lands for our own people when we go home? We have to remember that we are every drop of that water.
Yes.
That is who we are.
Yes. I think that one of the things that many times is overlooked is that, when I think about the water, I think, well, how old is that water?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just right there. It comes from a watershed, from the ridge, we say, from the ridge to the reef. And there's this whole system, and that is important. And I think I had a picture that was going to be posted, and it's a picture of the water, the river systems or the river basins of the United States. And I'm not sure if they have that picture to put up, but I wanted to show that picture because what it does is, if you haven't recognized or you don't understand what we mean when we say the earth is our mother, that it's a living being.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the river basins of our country, our homelands, you will understand what we mean when we say Mother Earth is alive, that our water is her bloodline. It's our lifeline.
It is.
And the same thing with all of the minerals, all of her whole body. They all have a purpose for her existence and her health, just like us. And so I just wanted to mention that right now. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
It's my pleasure. And I'm so grateful that both of you were able to join us today, because these are the stories that we need to hear. We need to have that recognition of our connectedness. And I'm hoping that we can bring up that image that you were discussing. Will you say, okay, Karenna just sent me a note. Excuse me.
Thank you so much. Yes, I know that we're working on the image, and in any case, people are welcome to visit Center for Earth Ethics, our website, and if the image doesn't come up during this program, we'll post it there, and we'll have more words from Mona on that website, centerforearthethics.org. And I just want to say that Indigenous knowledge is so powerful and is still with us. And the way that many of us and I'm speaking from Lenape land. Apologies for not saying that at the beginning. But those of us who are in this process of understanding the context of our time and our place and our situation, and are seeking to live in balance or seeking to reconnect. I just want to say that if you support traditional indigenous peoples in their work, in keeping their knowledge, then you get the great blessing of being a part of something that is truly in alignment with the laws of nature, with creator, with creation. We've designed a kind of society that's put itself against, like antagonistic towards the laws of nature. And it is such a blessing that we are able to have teachers and guides to help us find our way back, to be in alignment and balance that way. So I appreciate the opportunity to share this conversation and to continue to learn from Mona. I thank you, Alicia, for your vision and leadership, and everyone at Her Many Voices. Thank you.
Thank you. Just one question. So how do you support the Center for Earth Ethics? How can we support?
Well, we would be so happy if you would sign up for our newsletter and then hear more from us about our events. You can register and come to events. You can take classes when we offer them. You can obviously donate if you want to, but really to be present in the conversation with us, so that, because it's always evolving, as we know, and it's dynamic. I think the first I would ask is that you follow us on social media and you sign up for our newsletter, and that way you won't miss anything, because we put it all out through there, including Mona's wonderful teachings and guidance as well. Thank you for that question, Alicia.
Okay, and at that point, hopefully we'll be able to see the photo too through the newsletter or through the links onto the website.
Absolutely. Maybe we can post this conversation, and then we can pull some of the highlights into a blurb that includes the photo.
That would be wonderful. Yeah. Ladies, any other information or wisdom you want to share before we sign off?
I'll just sing a little song real quick. Okay.
Wonderful.
We santo te, we santo te. We santo te, 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 we santo te. Pakaunivam, 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 pakaunivam. Escali. Blessings to everyone. Blessings to our mother, the earth.
That was beautiful, Mona. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
All right. Ladies, have a beautiful and blessed rest of your day. We are now traveling across the pond to, well, Numba is actually from Tanzania, but he is right now in Kenya. I'm hoping you will stay on and watch what he has to share, because he has created a video game that honors Mother Earth and the wisdom of our ancestral voices, especially those from the matriarchal lineage. So, and we know we need more of this kind of thing, because we have so many of these games that are out there that are nothing but violence and destruction. So the fact this man has created something of respect and creation in that story is important. So, all right.
Thank you.
Greetings and thank you.
Greetings, Kona. Excuse me, Karenna and Mama Mona Polacca. Thank you. I loved everything you all were talking about, and I really thank you, Alicia, for helping to put this together. This is a tremendous event that you're doing, and it really is. It's giving voice to the voices that need to be some of the louder voices in the room, because we've been through centuries of many voices that are the loudest voices in the room actually have been the most destructive. So it's just good to see empowerment happening all through this process. And that's what I'm hoping to do with this game, Earth Cipher. So I have a slideshow that I think that they're pulling up that I'll kind of talk through. I just want to talk really about what this is. So yes, we're currently we live in Tanzania, but I'm currently in Kenya to do this broadcast. So either way, we're in East Africa. So I apologize if the connection may not be, always 100% the way it would as if you're getting it locally. But hopefully somebody will give me a nudge if the audio or video is not coming through. But yes, so what I'll do is while I'm talking, they're working with me. Her Many Voices people are working with me with the slideshow. I'm not running it, so I'll just say next slide for every time I want the next slide. So yes, I am making this game. It's called Earth Cipher. So it's not a completed game yet. It's a work in progress. And so I want to talk to you about what this is. I have some visuals where you can actually see the video of what it looks like as we go through. So next slide, please. So the question is, who am I and why am I making a mobile game about saving the planet? So, my name is Nmuta Jones. I'm a software engineer. I'm a game developer. I'm an educator, and I'm also a father of 5. So those are some of my big reasons of why I'm doing this. Right there, you see a picture of me, my wife, and our youngest daughter by a baobab tree in Tanzania. This is on the block. This is actually right next to our house in Tanzania. And this is one of these indigenous trees. These baobab trees live for centuries, even thousands of years. And they represent the traditions of our ancestors, and they also just represent the continuous respect for the earth that happens when you have indigenous people in charge of taking care of these communities. And earth spaces. So we're just kind of respecting the tree here. Next slide. So why I'm making the games is basically for 4 main reasons. The first reason, next slide, is that I'm making a game that has, I make games that have characters that you typically don't see in video games. So you typically don't see indigenous people in video games. And you also don't typically see indigenous women in video games. Mm-hmm. You don't see Black, or people of color, indigenous people of color in games that aren't one-dimensional for the most part. And the list goes on. You don't see Black men or indigenous people of color who are men in multifaceted roles in video games. It's always very flat. And video games in general, typically, the themes in some of these games don't really give you a chance to really see characters in a full light. Everything is very flat. So my games are more 3-dimensional, and they show basically who I am and where I come from, my communities and communities here in Africa. These are people who don't really have a voice in games. Usually if you see somebody who's indigenous in a game, they're like an accessory, or they're doing some stereotypical thing that you've seen in like movies or something, but has nothing to do with indigenous people. Next slide. Also, I'm making games about places that you don't typically see in games. So you'll see in a minute when we show the video in Earth Cipher, there are places, the theme of the game is that you play as an indigenous person and also as an indigenous animal who have a relationship, who both realize that the planet is endangered. The indigenous, you're playing as an endangered species who realize that they are endangered, but then you're also playing it as an endangered human, because all humans on the planet are endangered because of the way we're treating the planet. But the places that you see are places where some of these indigenous animals are. So we're in Tanzania now because the black rhino is one of the endangered species who's in low numbers now. Other locations include Sri Lanka, Zambia, Ethiopia, Mongolia, Alaska, Galapagos Islands. So I've chosen places where they're indigenous communities. And then also so I can have characters who have these symbiotic relationships with the animals, and they're both fighting to save the planet. Next slide. And then I'm sending messages that you typically don't see in games. So, themes like reducing your carbon footprint, how to live more naturally, how to create climate resilient communities. These are things that that were just talked about, by our previous speakers, Mama Mona Polaka and Karenna Gore. There's just a lot of indigenous wisdom that is in these communities, and a lot of, you don't see these things in the mass media of entertainment. You'll see it in the academic world. Sometimes you'll see documentaries and movies, but it doesn't make its way into the entertainment world in places like games very frequently. And so that's part of my mission. The other thing is that, my games don't feature gun violence. We're in a gun violence crisis in the United States. And so many young people, teenagers, think that, for a game to be fun, you have to be, doing mass murder. And that's just not my lens. So these games, my games are fun and engaging, but do it in a way that we don't have to perpetuate some of the ills that our planet has been experiencing over the past several hundred years, when we've been focusing on the wrong things. Next slide. And most of all, I'm making games because I'm building a vision of the planet that we want to pass on to our grandchildren. You always have to have a vision of where the planet is going. If you don't know where you're going, then you can, number one, get completely overwhelmed by the problem, because you think you're so oppressed by the problem that you don't have a vision of where you're going. And then number two, the vision, it just helps to be a common language with people and say, yes, this is our goal. Our goal is to reduce our carbon footprint. I loved what Mrs. Gore said about the two megatrends of depletion and pollution. Our goal is to reduce those so significantly that we can have beautiful areas, beautiful lands, beautiful countryside, beautiful, areas in our communities that look the way they did before we spoiled them. So having a lodestar is important. Next slide. So now we're going to go ahead. I'm going to play the trailer. It's a short trailer. It's 6 minutes long, but I really encourage you to watch this, because then you can kind of see the visual of what the game looks like, as opposed to me just talking. And then after that, then I have a few last words and then we're done. So please watch this video. I don't hear the audio though. Pause. Yeah, we could restart the video so that the audio is playing.
Again, the joy of those modern challenges that we're dealing with.
It may. You don't have headphones on, do you?
No.
Okay. I think I hear it.
Yeah.
And turn up the speakers on your computer too.
Nilipokuwa mchanga, bibi hunielezea.
When I was a child, my grandmother used to tell me that she had dreams. She could communicate with all living things. In those dreams, she would become an animal, and she would fight to save the earth from the hands of greed, destruction, and selfishness. My grandmother passed to the realm of ancestors 20 years ago today. And now those dreams have started coming to me.
My name is Nmuta Jones. I'm a software engineer, 3D artist, and technology educator. I'm also the founder of Media Breeze Multimedia and I'm here today to talk to you because we are raising seed capital for our latest work in development, a mobile game for iPhone and Android, and it's called Earth Cipher. The vision for Media Breeze Multimedia is to use video games the way Spike Lee used film in the early 1990s. The overall idea is that you're taking a medium that's been around for a long time and you make it a vehicle for socially progressive messages, but you do it in a fun and engaging way that is also new. Modern games are like film in that particular way. They reach millions of people and they can address some pretty heavy topics while also possibly remaining fun and entertaining. Earth Cipher is a game about economic justice. It uses the environment as a lens to explore that topic, but in a way that is lighthearted and fun and for all ages. You play as an endangered species fighting to save the planet. Your antagonists are a whole squad of mechanical minions that are infecting the land with artificial trees. The minions plant trees in the ground right beside normal trees, but the mechanical trees, as they mature, they begin to suck out all the resources and nutrients from the ground and turn those resources into dollars. The way the resources are being exploited is not sustainable, and the communities around that land are devastated, both physically and economically. So in the process, the mechanical minions and their masters are making money. Now, a cipher is a circle, but a cipher also represents a puzzle. So in this game, the cipher represents the fusion of modern technology and indigenous wisdom. As an endangered species, you have to figure out how to use this magical cipher to get powers that will allow you to handle these minions. This is a game about choices. Once you get the powers from the cipher, how will you solve the problem of the environment being destroyed at the hands of these minions? You can try to decommission them. You can try to short circuit them in hopes of reprogramming them. You can ship them away to someone else's backyard or to another place where you plan to handle them later. There are lots of choices for how to handle the situation. Any choice kicks off a series of dominoes in a cause and effect chain. Some of these effect chains are not as simple as they may appear. There will be many ways to play, many ways to win, and many ways to lose, but there's lots of fun going on along the way. And the game uses humor to engage the player in a way that's light. In each region, you play as an animal indigenous to that area. After bringing stability to each region that you're in, you travel to various regions and keep playing until you've liberated the planet. Games are inherently interdisciplinary. The player learns not only about science, ecology, and the environment, but also about global economics, social studies, geography, and various regions across the globe. The completed game is also going to ship with lesson plans for educators to use at home and in the classroom. We're excited about creating this game, but we can't do it alone. We're a small team building this using our own resources. In order to realize our vision for an app, we need your help. We are raising seed capital to finish the game. By getting involved, you have a chance to some pretty cool gear, and higher level donors get a chance to put physical billboards inside of the game for their business or personal ads, which is exciting. Lastly, please know that when you support us, you're not just supporting this one game. We have several amazing ideas for future games and many subjects related to activism and progressive ideas, and you're helping us with one project is also helping us with the next. Thank you for your time and consideration, and we also thank you for supporting socially conscious media.
Munta, I've said it before. I will say it again. Your work is powerful and needed now more than ever, I believe.
Well, thank you.
So thank you. Thank you for sharing
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I only have 1 minute left. So the last thing I think I would really say is just, we really need your support. We have different rounds of fundraising for this game. I'm doing a lot of this work by myself. I do have a very small team that is helping me, but in order to pay them, I have to make payroll every time, twice a month. So it's been very difficult. We're in Tanzania, and I have teams in different areas. We have a seed capital goal. If you go to mediabreeze.com right there, you can help us raise funds. We're almost we needed to raise around 19.5 thousand. We're almost there. We're only $3,000 or $4,000 short of that goal, but that little bit of money is just going to help us with a few extra things that we need to do in order to reach this first goal. So we're almost there, but every dollar that's contributed really helps us with with our payroll, with the people who are helping me develop this effort. So yeah, please go to mediabreeze.com and click on, it says donate, and then you can donate to this, and it would really help us out a lot.
We will certainly be promoting this and playing this video and encouraging people to donate, because we need more of this kind of work out there.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a comment. Awesome. Thank you. This is coming from Shante. Awesome. This game would have made homeschooling much easier. I can't wait to see it. Absolutely. Absolutely. We have so many people, especially at this time, students are spending time at home, and they're spending an awful lot of time doing this in front of things that are not healthy for them or any other living beings. So thank you.
Thank you for that comment, Shante. Yeah, the game comes with lesson plans. So as an educator, I'm always thinking in terms of lesson plans. So the game, when we release the game, is going to come with lesson plans for everything to help people who are homeschooling, which is quite a number of people right now. So,
yeah. All right, my friend, have a beautiful night. I know it's late for you.
Yeah, it is.
Rest up. And we are going to head back to Haiti now. All right. So pay attention, contribute, contact Nmuta, and invest in the future for our children. Speaking of investing in the future of our children, we have Showdy, Ishmael Showdy Saint-Jean from Haiti. And Showdy, are we down in Port-au-Prince or in the outskirts? Where are we?
Down.
Okay. All right. So I'm excited that you're here. I met Showdy, I don't know, close to 10 years ago at PID, Partners in Development, which is an organization been in existence for 30-some years now. Their home base is out of Boston, but they've been doing some fine work in Haiti this entire time for medical attention as well as housing. And so that's how we met. Her Many Voices was down there for one of those Travel with the Purpose groups. And at the time, all I knew is that Showdy liked to have a good time. He was wonderful with children, and he loves music, and he's going to go somewhere. That's all I knew. He was moving. He was definitely a mover and shaker. And so here we go. Fast forward, and all of your loves and your passion have come to fruition, and you've created this beautiful organization from roots to wings. So tell us about it.
First and foremost, I want to thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited. I'm really happy to talk to you guys about from listening in Haiti. So I've been working with kids for a while. I'm doing yoga and I do yoga with different type of kids. So I do yoga with kids who live in the slums, such as City Soleil, Tutie, Blanchard, but I do that with all the type of kids that live like Pictionville, where healthy people live in. But I feel like when I work with the kids like in the slums, like I've seen like some little things. I was born in the slums in City Soleil. And I've seen like how hard life is there, and I found help from PID, Partners in Development. So they have my family move from the slums like to another place, which is Blanchard, and they find me a job and they help me go to school, and then right now I am who I am right now, and I ask myself like, why don't I do something to help the kids too? Because I know a lot of kids who have a big drama. Like most of them, that their parents are dying, and most of them they don't have no place to live. They live in the streets, and I feel like I gotta do something. And I was on I think in 2017. So I met a team from Pennsylvania, and they came for vacation to explore the beauty of it. You know how beautiful is this country, huh? So they come to teach English and enjoying Haitian culture. And then I received a call that this team they need something to do. And when I met the team, so I took them to an orphanage, but it was not really an orphanage. It's a home where the pastor who like try to get these kids from the countryside and bring them to Port-au-Prince so it could help. Unfortunately, this is not he was doing. So he was trying to use these kids just to make money instead of helping kids. So when you go to the house, you've seen that like his grandchildren are more healthier or more healthy than the other. Like the other kids, you can see their hair are red, they have big bellies, they look malnourished, and we didn't feel like keep like giving him like sponsors because we don't like the kids receiving what they have received. So we said like we should do something on our own so we could help these children more. And this is when we start this program and start doing school for these kids and help them with food. But you know we cannot giving like food, like buying food for them all the time. So we create like a project where we teach this how to grow food, like such as vegetables. We create something for the girls as well, because the girls here, most of them they use them as a like you know something we call sex abuse. So like girls who live on the surf area of the city soleil, like you know these kids, these girls are really life is not good for them over there because when there is a gang violence, so they get raped. So their mom get raped in front of them. This is really sad. Sometimes the girls think that it's okay for them to be like this. Sometimes they need somebody to tell them that no, you're not supposed to be like this. So you have to do something, and we have to help them do something. But we are creating a project where we go to the slums. We talk to these girls. We teach them safe birth. We teach them CPR. We teach them how to take care of themselves. So it's a really a good project. In our program again, we have wellness, where we teach kids yoga, which is really great because we help the kids with, to release stress and to help them believe in themselves, etc. Because you know, because of the shootings all the time, because of all these violence, sometimes these kids they're losing control. They have a lot of stress. They are panicking all the time. So we feel like we need to do like yoga, not only doing in the school, but we do it at church too. At church right now.
I'm sorry. We had a little interruption of your video started to come on.
Okay.
So let's hold off on the video for just a moment longer. Yeah. Sorry, Showdy. Yeah. I'm sorry. Continue. I want to say that I'm so impressed with the work that you do because you are a power of example of what it means to pay it forward, to go from, I live in the slums, this is my environment, we are a product of our environment, and you at a young age recognize that there was something greater for you in this life and in your contribution in this world. And I'm happy that there were others that saw the same thing. Your spirit always glowed. And the fact that today you can help other children, you can help young girls and women, and remind them of who they are and how they are to be treated in this world, and how they are to treat themselves. This is key for all of us. This is a brilliant lesson to be learned. I know you submitted a video. Let's take a look at that video. Let's do it. Let's do that now.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Miles Senjur, but people call me Showdy. I am one of the co-founders and directors of From Roots to Rain in Haiti. Today, I want to take you to a very nice trip. I'm going to take you to Haiti. We are going to show you our tremendous work in Haiti. Let's go. All right, so now, welcome to From Roots to Rain. From Roots to Rain exists to develop sustainable community-based avenues towards empowerment. We envision a world where all individuals have access to basic necessities of life, knowledge, and opportunities to break out of poverty.
Boostering have a few different programs. We have education programs, we have health and wellness program, we have an economy program, and we have also a safe food program where we teach the kids how to grow their own food. At From Roots to Ring, we have our own values. Our values are empowerment, sustainability, integrity, collaboration, and innovation. So at From Roots to Wing, we have our projects, and our projects in the future, From Roots to Wing hopes to provide a community center for the local community. This building will serve many purposes, including a home for children without families, a playground, learning center, and a dormitory for staff. It will also be utilized by the local community during normal hours to obtain necessary learning resources. The estimate cost for the establishment is about like approximately 60,000 US, which From Roots to Wing is expected to build in the next 4 years. Currently, From Roots to Wing is renting a house as an office and space to run our mentorship in all our programs.
Showdy, I want to thank you for presenting today. Thank you and to your team for the work that you're doing for humanity. You know.
Thank you so much for inviting us. Thank you.
Yeah, you're doing the fine work that we need, and especially for our children. They need to have an understanding of who they are and why they are in this world and how they get to empower and impact this world. So this was beautiful. Thank you so very much, my friend. All right, we'll be talking again soon because I definitely want to be kept up to date on what it is that you're doing. So, and now we go from Haiti to Michelle. Are you in Colorado now?
I'm still in Portland, Oregon, soon to be in Colorado.
Okay. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you. I haven't seen you in quite some time.
No, it's been way too long. Yeah. so long that I didn't even know that you were in Portland. You've been there for a while. Yeah. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us today. And I know that you're going through some transitions, your personal transitions, as well as work transitions. So I'm really looking forward to what you have to share about this knowledge, this wisdom of that power, the lessons from lions, power.
I know you have no idea what I'm going to talk about today.
I got little inklings of it. I've got little inklings of it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just for the frame for everyone who's watching, my experience and background is in psychology, neuropsychology, and neuroscience. And so, of course, so much of what I experience and see is through that lens, through the lens of our nervous systems. But the story that I'm going to tell you, and I really love this feeling of endogenous wisdom. At first, when I was invited to speak, I was like, oh, I don't know if I have any endogenous wisdom, but what I want to do is tell you a story, and I'd like you to imagine that you are sitting around a fire. Maybe it's a campfire, maybe it's a fireplace, and you're listening to a grandmother tell a story. This is my story from when I went on a women's rewilding journey in South Africa. And so I went with 8 women. A close friend of mine was one of the women who guides the journeys. And we had 2 Zulu guides. And, you know, for those of you who know me, this was a really big deal because I don't even really camp in the States. At most, I glamp. So, you know, giant backpacks, like single file walking through this incredibly sacred, virtually untouched land with the big 5. And so the big 5 are the lions, the leopards, the rhinos, the buffalo, and I'm forgetting one. Maybe that's all. Elephants. And so, you know, there's so much that I feel like is hard to convey because the actual journey itself was such an incredibly sacred experience. But we didn't talk all day, so there was no talking. At most, we could like click to each other if we needed to get each other's attention, but otherwise, we walked single file through the wilderness, shifting our nervous system such that we could be absorbed, if you will, into the wilderness. And in this process, we got to experience things that I don't think very many people in modern days get to experience. We got to learn how to track. We got to learn how to feel and be felt by the animals. And these are not, you know, animals on a game preserve, you know, where people are running around in Jeeps saying, you know, like taking pictures of them. They will only come out if you blend in. And so I felt like we got to be on the inside of this gorgeous experience. And as we would, you know, go around these different, you know, areas, the guides would pause and talk in very quiet voices, and they would teach us about how intrinsically woven the ecosystem was, how absolutely perfectly balanced everything was. So everything from the, you know, this is a little bit of a horrible story. It was horrible when I heard it, but I really feel that like the natural part of it, there's a particular type of little dog that the way it takes down its prey is it goes in a pack and it nips at it and it just slowly takes bites out of it, you know, as it's running until it's too weak to run anymore. And then as soon as it falls, then they get chased away. And then the next predator, like the hyenas, come in. And, you know, that for each animal that we came across, they told us a story about how perfectly each part was tied into this ecosystem that created something completely balanced, even down to the point of there's a particular type of land snail that only lives because of the droughts, because when there's droughts, then there's bones that get washed up, and then the dogs chew on the bones, and then they poop out tons and tons of calcium. And then from that calcium, these giant land snails get to build their shells. And so even in nature, there's this, there's a plan for the drought and a plan for when there's too much water. And so, we go through and we're like, oh no, there's, not enough rain, there's not enough drought, or there's not enough anything. And what I really felt into was how natural it is in the cycle of our planet to go through these phases, that there are built-in safeguards for that, and it actually feeds necessary things. Some people get mad at the elephants for ramming down the trees, but actually it turns out that when there's a drought, they're supposed to ram down the trees so that the creatures that can't reach the tippy top branches can, then have access to the nutrients that are left in the tree. And then it provides also more shade because now there's this big structure on the ground. So feeling into this experience of this knowledge and this wisdom being transmitted into my bones, we finally, on one of the last days, got to the place where there were these lions. And, of course, we're all like, oh my God, there's lions. And trying to be very quiet so that we didn't frighten them away, because we really wanted to see the lions. And what was amazing was, it was a pretty hot day. And what was amazing was we, found a place where we could take our binoculars and watch them from afar. And there was a whole pride, and they were just kind of lounging. It was the middle of the afternoon. They were being quite lazy. And then lo and behold, a super old water buffalo just goes trotting in front of the pride. And the water buffalo didn't care. I mean, in any other moment, they would have taken him down, but they were full, they had eaten. And in that moment, it dawned on me, this idea of lions, as the apex predator, and they've, been apex predators for as long as they've been around. And I think about humans in some ways as apex predators, and how did lions, as apex predators, maintain their status for so long? And it occurred to me that it was in part because they understand enoughness. So they hunt when they need to hunt, and they hunt when they're hungry, but they don't hunt for excess. They don't hunt and kill and then store things, store animals up, in their den. If they did, they would rot and it would be gross. And then there wouldn't be enough balance for the rest of this very perfectly balanced ecosystem. And I think about humans and how we exist in this chronic stress of, I don't have enough, I need to get more. I have $100 in my bank account, now I have 1,000, now I have 100,000, now I have 1,000,000. It's still not enough. And this feeling of not enoughness leads us to this sense of chronic illness, right? And then also we deplete the planet and throw off the balance of the ecosystem. And so I don't think we'll last super long as apex predators if we cannot learn the natural rhythm of enoughness. And so one of the things that I wanted to offer today was a practice, just a little practice for your nervous system to relax. Because by very definition, if you're not relaxed, your nervous system is elevated. It's in a fight or flight mode. And if it's in a fight or flight mode, there's the natural feeling of, I don't have enough, I better survive. So I don't pretend to have any of the answers, but I do know that the more we can soften, the more we can relax some of the pressure on ourselves, then the more likely it is we can access some of those feelings of being enough and having enough, and then offering replenishment. So if you would like to, you may close your eyes with me while I take us on this short little relaxation practice. I'm going to close my eyes too because it helps me drop in. So if your eyes are closed, or if you're not able to close them, maybe just leave them at a half gaze so that you don't have to focus on the computer screen. You can start just by allowing your breath to be whatever it is. You don't have to focus it yet. You don't have to do anything other than just letting your attention begin to fall into your breath. And just noticing how your breath begins to fall deeper into your body. And maybe even letting your body sink deeper into your seat. Let's run through that one more time, letting your attention fall into your breath. And letting your breath sink deeper into your body. And letting your body sink even deeper into your seat. And from this space, I wonder if it would be interesting to you to imagine, visualize your favorite thing in nature. So it could be a tree. It could be some other sort of plant. I'm going to use a tree. And in your visualization, I wonder what it might feel like to imagine that your tree or your plant were able to grow roots even further deeper into the ground. And that your leaves or your branches were able to absorb even more sunlight. And as you sit and watch or consider your plant or your tree, noticing that the more it takes in, the more it grows and the more it's able to offer. And so this idea of replenishing yourself, rather than getting more stuff, could you just replenish yourself? So that you have even more to give, should that be the path that you choose. And if you'd like, you can open your eyes whenever you're ready. And I invite you just to take that image of a tree or plant or whatever you chose and let yourself call it up throughout the day today, Earth Day, and in the future. And just maybe it might be a little reminder to you to nourish yourself, to take in more so that you can give more. Thank you.
Michelle, there was a cadence about your share from the moment you started to speak that automatically created a quiet in my body and in my mind.
I'm so glad.
So thank you very, very much. I would encourage everyone to go to Michelle's website and find out more about the work that she does and maybe how you can be a part of it. Coaching, journeying, all of those things, neurosculpting wise, that we need. This was pretty profound.
I was just going to say, all in service of, helping our nervous systems, because when our nervous systems are balanced, then we can do whatever we want in the world.
Yes, I mean, we have to remind ourselves, we do not think about, oh, I didn't plug in my phone today, because we always are making sure our phones are plugged in. We have that charge, that energy. We need that within ourselves. So thank you for that reminder today and bringing us back into ourselves and that connection with all there is.
Thank you for having me.
Lots of blessings. Hopefully I will see you when you return to Colorado soon.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. All right. Well, I have certainly quieted down within my head and my body. Let's go to the ocean now.
I am the ocean. I'm water. I'm most of this planet. I shaped it. Every stream, every cloud, and every raindrop, it all comes back to me. One way or another, every living thing here needs me. I'm the source. I'm what they crawled out of. Humans, they're no different. I don't owe them a thing. I give, they take, but I can always take back. That's just the way it's always been. It's not their planet anyway. Never was, never will be. But humans, they take more than their share. They poison me, then they expect me to feed them. Well, it doesn't work that way. If humans want to exist in nature with me and off of me, I suggest they listen close. I'm only going to say this once. If nature isn't kept healthy, humans won't survive. Simple as that. I mean, I could give a damn with or without humans. I'm the ocean. I covered this entire planet once, and I can always cover it again. That's all I have to say.
Thank you again, Conservation International, and thank you, Harrison Ford, for that. Water certainly is an emotion. It stirs all sorts of things, and that video does that for me. And it is a reminder of as he says, we take more than we need. And that is the problem, is that we felt like that we are here to dominate and take and control everything, and instead of being in balance with nature and each other. And that is the shift. That's the paradigm shift of where we have arrived at this point in our existence. Our next presentation is from a young woman, Sofia Sanchez, who is an activist. She has Down syndrome. That happens to be a part of her makeup, her DNA. But
Hi.
I can tell you. Hi, Isla.
How you doing? We might want to go to Lutzen's video. I haven't heard from Sophia, so I've been texting you because I don't have.
Yeah, and that's why I said we can share her video and.
Okay.
Do you have Sophia?
I don't have anything, so that's why I was hopping in.
Okay, all right. I will make sure that you get Sophia's video.
I'm not saying it didn't get sent. Just I don't see it right now, so that's why I've been trying to chat you.
Okay.
So I was thinking we could show Lutosins and maybe take a minute to track down the other things. Also, I want to show you. Check out this cool wooden map of the world on the wall.
Oh, that is very cool.
That has to be assembled. So my housemates actually bought this and assembled it on the wall. It's some million numbers of pieces, but I thought it was a perfect backdrop for Earth Day.
That's beautiful. Is that wood or is it caulk?
It's wood, and it has a spot for pins, so you can put pins in all the places you've been.
Ooh.
Yeah, no, it's pretty neat, and you'll note they have the space out and put the we should probably put a link so people can buy it and then ask for sponsorship or something. It's pretty cool, but it's got like spaces for the islands and everything like that. So yeah, I can play Olutosin's weaving video while we try to sort out where the stuff from Sophia is.
Okay, so I have to apologize, Ulu, because we ran into tech issues, and so we had this. It just petered out on us, shortly after we started the video.
Let's see what happens. Hopefully this time it'll work.
Yeah.
Good afternoon from Owo, Ondo State, Western Nigeria. My name is Olutosi Oladoshu Adebowale. I am a Nigerian and I am from Owo in Ondo State, Western part of Nigeria. Cloth weaving is a major traditional work in Ondo State, Nigeria. And most of the time it is from generation to generation. My great-grandmother was a cloth weaver. My grandmother, her name is Adeshawo. She was a cloth weaver. My mother, her name is Olanuwesi. She was a cloth weaver. And my elder sister, she's Rachel Bamise. We are of the same mother and we are of the same father. She is a cloth weaver. She's educated. She has a PhD in religious study, and that does not stop her from weaving clothes. So when I came to Ondo State, I said we have to follow the footsteps of our great-grandmother. And I began to use cloth weaving to make traditional chairs. By so doing, we've been able to create jobs for women, because when we employ them to make this for us, we pay them. And with that, they are able to generate income and to sponsor their children in school. Cloth weaving in Owo is an indigenous wisdom which our grandparents passed on to us. And as we become educated, we devise means in order to use cloth weaving too in our day-to-day activities. That is why we decided that we are going to be using cloth weaving in our furniture. This is white woven cloth. It is pure white and it is used by both men and women. And this particular one is the prestigious Shewoshe. This Shewoshe is woven only in Owo, in Ondo State, Western Nigeria. It is not woven in any part of Nigeria aside Owo. And it is mostly used for traditional marriage, chieftaincy, and kinship affairs. Cloth weaving indigenously generates income for women, and with the income, they are able to raise their family, to feed their children, to feed themselves, and to support their extended family. And we key into this belief because we know that indigenous wisdom is the best wisdom. Thank you. You can come closer so that you can see Shewoshe. Cut.
Needless to say, Ulu is, she's an important person in my life. I consider her a sister. And I am always blown away by the work that she does and the quality of work that is created. The storytelling behind the weaving, the purpose behind it, the foods that need to be ingested during certain times, the period of time for the weaving, all of that is so essential to the lineage of tradition and culture for her people. Ulu has been working very hard in the Lagos, Nigeria area, and she works tirelessly for women there. She works for her community, but she is definitely an advocate for education for women and empowerment and increasing their means of being able to be independent and care for themselves and their family. So economic and financial independence is key for the work that she does. So not only is she doing this, but she's also teaching people. She started a furniture making business. The furniture is absolutely beautiful. Because of the work that they've done this last year, she was able to feed 10,000 people in her community. Just think about that. The power of one, right? We think about the power of one, what we get to do and how we get to do it. So speaking to the power of one, I'm hoping we're ready. Yeah, it looks like it. And we're getting ready to listen to Sofia Sanchez, who is a young woman who is a activist. Young woman, she's a girl who's an activist who happens to have Down syndrome. That's just a part of her makeup. But as you will hear these words, she's quite powerful herself.
Can spark a moment. One flower can wake a tree. One tree can start a forest. One bird can herald spring. One smile begins a friendship. One hand clasp lifts a soul. One star can guide a ship at sea. One word can frame that goal. One vote can change a nation. One sunbeam lights a room. One candle wipes out darkness. One map conquers gloom. One step must start each journey. One word must start each prayer. One hope can raise our spirits. One touch can show you care. One voice can speak with wisdom. One heart can know what's true. One life can make the difference. You see, it's up to you.
That was beautiful. And I'm sorry we don't have Sophia with us. That was probably my confusion on my end. I was not clear to her mom. Yeah, she touches your heart, doesn't she? Isla, you're on mute.
I was bound to do it at least once today. My mom used to wish I had a mute button, so now you've all given her, a moment of understanding what that would look like. How did you find Sophia?
I actually, on social media, I've seen a few different of her posts, and I've just been touched and I was really moved by this one in particular. And like I said, she's a little powerhouse. She's been an activist for some time. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, she's an inspiration. She was the inspiration for a book that was written. It's called You Are Enough. And it's a book on inclusion.
Nice. Yeah.
Look at that. Look at that smile. I mean, she's so beautiful. I am so happy that we've had the voice of children on the program today, because they really make the difference. They put things in perspective for us.
There was what Dr. Karumbu said this morning, I thought also was so beautiful, where she said, no one is helpless and no one is hopeless. It is only because of the systems that are created to get in our way that we experience that. And I feel like we've just had that lesson or that message in so many languages and from so many voices from all over the globe, young and elders and in the middle. So yeah, it's just every single method has reinforced that perspective. And it's been really beautiful. Thank you for creating Her Many Voices Foundation so that we had the excuse to do this day.
This has been my pleasure. It's definitely been my calling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I appreciate that about you. You are great at getting in it with connecting with people and chatting with them. So I really value the way that you bring so many people into your fold, and I'm glad to have been one of them. So I was hoping, since we have a minute, so I don't know, I'm going to date myself and you, and also Chet, he's the only other person who figured this out on his own, that this is sort of a Jerry Lewis style telethon, but with less silliness and no call-in phones. So I don't know if you want to talk about how, what is it that's inspiring to you about today and Her Many Voices? I mean, it just feels like this is such a culmination of the things that you've done in the last 11 or 12 years for the organization, to have all of these people from all these places across the world. And what is it that we are going to do next? Besides, obviously, host this again next year. I already have people who are like, I can't wait till next year. One of our presenters is like, I'm ready. Obviously, I'm like, I know how I could do this better. So
I am very happy that you made this suggestion. And, I can be resistant to certain things, and Isla has been wonderful working with me on this. And this is really moving, and I'm excited about what it's going to look like next year. The couple of things that I really am getting out of this day, the two things that I really want to focus on are, what are your dreams? Mm-hmm. And then where are you going and what are you going to do? I think this day about honoring Mother Earth is about listening listening to the wisdom that she whispers and screams at us regularly, right? Sometimes it's in that gentle whisper of like the snowflake that's just fallen on your tongue. And then it's other times of, she will shake and swallow you whole. And so these are the things that I think about when I think of Earth Day and how we are approaching it and what does it look like in the future for us. And certainly I've been very blessed, I have to say. I've traveled a fair amount on the planet, and I've met some obviously amazing, incredible people. Mostly I have met live. There are only a handful that I have not, Sofia Sanchez being one. We have not actually met live yet, although I'm looking forward to the day that we can. So those are the things that I've been looking at, and really that's what's resonating of, well, what are our dreams? What are your individual dreams? And how do you get to ignite those things that really whisper and you find yourself impassioned by, that keep you up at night in a good way?
Right.
Yeah.
The thing, the inspiration. One of the things that we talked about, but as we were preparing for this day, and it came up a couple times, like Michelle brought it up, I think at least once, that when we first conceived of this event, and we talked about wanting to invite Indigenous wisdom or knowledge into the world to celebrate Earth Day, to bring forward what that is, that was definitely a lot of folks who immediately were like, oh, I don't count, or I don't belong. And even though we tried, and we didn't try, we were incredibly deliberate about putting out a message of invitation, all of Mother Earth's children, and those voices are wanted. There was it was a fear response that sort of also combined with respect. It was a little, it was an interesting thing to experience. And so you and I were talking, and I shared a story about my family, appropriate, and you had asked me to share it. So I was like, I think we might have a couple minutes. So I was wondering if it would be appropriate for me to share that now.
That would be wonderful, because we need to talk about the inclusion and that fine line of what we consider being appropriating of someone else's culture versus an appreciation for an honoring and an acknowledgement of the indigenous cultures of all of our peoples.
Yeah, exactly. And there's two facets to that. One is my own personal experience as a person of European descent, and I'm going to thank Theo Wilson for that nomenclature. It was a really great way for me to acknowledge both where I come from without embracing terminology that I don't connect to. So, and I've always really connected to my Celtic roots. You may or may not be able to tell my red hair's faded a little bit, but I come from a very strong Celtic background. And for me, I don't know, probably 15, 20 years ago, when I started looking at the world and realizing that I was disconnected from those roots, and I could see and I understand some of where that yearning comes from in people who see like Native cultures or African cultures, and they're like, wow, there's a connection to who we are and the earth when you're in that culture, that when you don't know your own history and your own story, you can see you're missing something. But we as people of European descent, we don't often then take the next step to say, well, what is my history? So I did that. I looked at my history, and I had the French and the Danish, and they were fine. But the Welsh and the Scottish and the Irish, that's where I felt more at home. So that's the indigenous roots that I worked to develop and learn the history of. I learned some language, some of the Welsh language. I also have a friend who's pure Scottish, and when I say that Scottish and Welsh are similar, it corrects me. So as a mutt in America, I could say that, but apparently that's not okay over there. It was really funny when I laughed. It was on Facebook, luckily, so I didn't get in trouble for laughing. And so that's something. But it's something I really encourage people to do. My partner celebrates his Norse history. And practices, spiritual, the Walpurgis night or Walpurgis Nacht and things like that. And there's something to that when you can, and it's not to say that other indigenous cultures are not obviously beautiful but when you can connect to your own roots, there's something in that that's, I don't know why, it makes no rational sense to me whatsoever, but there's something about that that is deeply moving and connective. And so that was one of the things for me, was to encourage anyone who doesn't have that connection, but especially people of European descent, because we don't really think about how important that is. If you live, especially in Western culture, the things that you're taught to value, it's a little bit like what Nmuta talked about in the game. You're taught to value like the money and the mechanical. And while technology has its place, it's not the only thing of value. And I think about that, like white families often don't stay connected, and families that embrace the American identity of whiteness, their children get up and leave and go far away because somehow this hyper individualism is what's seen as independence. And what that does is it leaves them alone and, obviously easier to prey on, honestly, but it's honestly, to me, it seems like a really bad system, but I'll just judge it and then move on. So that's fine. And then, but to say like, let's value our connections and our roots. And then the other piece of it was when I was 16, I was an exchange student in Germany, and I had a friend there, interestingly, who was Navajo. And she and I were chatting, and I was talking about how I love Navajo fry bread. And she said, "Oh, I'll give you my grandmother's recipe." She was also 16. She wrote it out. I still actually have the original piece of paper because I am that person who saves things forever. And then when my daughter was born, her birthday's in the November, near the Thanksgiving holiday, the American holiday. And so in order to make it special, I would make fry bread for her birthday, but no other time of the year. And so it became a part of our family. And we make it once a year, and it's a very loving part of how we celebrate her and our family tradition. And I still use that same recipe, that grandma recipe. Mm-hmm. And when we were talking about the difference between like cultural appreciation and cultural appropriation, I'm really clear that doesn't make me Navajo. I would not ever try to teach someone what that is from some claim of culture around it. I'll feed it to them when I make it for my daughter and share that experience. And it brings back, sometimes I'll tell stories of being an exchange student. And now we have, 20 something years of stories of her birthdays, and it's become part of our family. And we do deeply appreciate it. And it takes us home in that special way. And yet we're also really aware that doesn't change anything about the culture it comes from or where it belongs. And so to me, that was and when I shared that with you, you like appreciated it as well, like a way to talk about, there's difference between your personal experience and something you love, and then try to claim that you own it in some public way or claim an expertise in it. Like, that doesn't have anything to do with what's actually happening for that. So just thought I would take that moment since we have a pause. I wasn't expecting a pause.
Pause is always good. We always need pauses.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing that, because there is that fine line between the appreciation and appropriation. And we can oftentimes, I find that we can be, it's almost human nature to be a little hypersensitive at this point. Mm-hmm. If you have a respect for Buddhism and you have set a temple within your own home of what that means to you,
right? And
you are honoring in that way, sometimes people think, well, you've appropriated that. Have you really? Have you had a respect and appreciation in something that is sacred?
Yeah.
You're not out there making money off of something. You're not out there stating that you are the founder of something and it is yours.
Right.
We, especially in this country, I find that we have this feeling of ownership, mm-hmm. that independence. I got mine, you get yours. Mm-hmm. And, that conquering sort of mentality. And I think that kind of, it seeps over into the appropriation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We will claim something that is not really ours to claim. But we do that with almost everything. I mean, who are we to own land?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and what you were saying earlier about Earth Day being a day to listen, and I think to me, that feels like an important part is learning to listen and to not be afraid of being wrong. Because I talk about it incessantly, that I have a podcast, and part of the reason that I do the podcast is we take on these very challenging topics, and sometimes we step in it, and not out of any desire to offend, more out of a desire to not be afraid to say something that we think, in the hopes that someone will tell us if we said something that was wrong or upsetting, so we can take responsibility for it and learn. And I think we need, and it's tricky, right? Because like you said, people have gotten sensitive, and there's really good reason for that. And if we don't feel safe enough, I don't know whether it's a confidence or a trust, saying things and people correcting us, we're going to keep our wrong thoughts in our head, and we're not going to move forward. And so that's why one of the things that we do on the show is we really encourage that dialogue around these difficult topics. And we try to get people to walk away from the rhetoric to talk more about the actual topic and to listen to each other, so that way we can step forward into something new.
Yeah, I mean, in so many different cultures, you resolve your differences or your misunderstandings or misinterpretations by sitting down and having a cup of tea, by sitting down and sharing a meal, you know, because that opens up that dialogue between the two of you.
Right.
How can I go to war with you if I've just shared a meal with you? And we've talked about our children and the hopes and dreams that we have. Those sort of things are very key for understanding each other's cultures and not misunderstanding or misappropriating or doing those sort of things. That is key, that communication, that moment, that exchange. So thank you for sharing this story, Aisla. I'm glad you did. Because it touched me when you first told me about this a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you decided you would share it today. And so speaking of sharing meals and sitting down and having that exchange, I know that our next guest make sure that we have that wisdom, that knowledge from our ancestors preparing meals. And this is why we prepare these meals. And this is the time, and this is, the celebration, and here are the stories behind it. And it's a part of honoring the food itself. I know that every time I sit down to have a meal, before I take that first bite, I give thanks to the life that gave itself to me in that moment to nourish my life. That is key. That is key. So,
do you want to talk a little bit about first how we found First Foods?
Was it a mutual finding?
I don't remember.
All I remember is that Desiree Kane and Brooke Rodriguez are two amazing women that I fell absolutely in love with, and their passion. And so we started creating this relationship. And at this point, Her Many Voices is, at this moment, we are fiscal sponsors for First Foods. I don't know how much longer we will hold that for them, because I know that they are ready to have their own legs very soon. But these two women are very impassioned about culture and food. And they have a series through their First Foods. They have a series, video series that you get to watch on a regular basis from people from all over the place, Indigenous peoples who are sharing their culture, their food, their knowledge, their wisdom. So I don't remember the exact details of how we connected.
I think it was probably, the way that you usually do, where you followed an instinct or an inspiration, and it worked out beautifully. So that would be my guess. I don't know. Yeah. So trying to think. We're about halfway. No, we're more than halfway through our day. And we've got a lot more live music coming up in the afternoon. I've got our support button. It's not a button though, at the bottom of the page. Oh, what I should do is share it again out to people. So what else? We've talked about Activate, Elevate. We've talked about Travel with Purpose. Obviously, if you support us, you'll be supporting Earth Day, which we plan to continue to make bigger and better. Last year, for Earth Day, we did like a 4-day online. We did the event in Haiti. We supported that. We weren't there. We were going to go down there, but because of COVID, we didn't. But we did support that and promote it. And then we did a 4-day online promotion around Earth Day with different sayings and had a great response to that. And then this year, obviously, we're doing this event. And then next year, how many days do I want to do? I can't remember. You're going to have to, after this is over, I'm probably saying I'm never doing it again.
No more than 2.
I have to say, I'm completely lying because I love this. It's amazing. It's been so fun. And I've done big events before, but I've never done big events with so many like spiritual presentations. And that actually makes it way easier to like keep your energy up, because I'll start to flag and then someone will say something just deeply inspiring. Or when Mona did the song at the end of her presentation, I was suddenly like, oh, there's my 5th win for the day.
Yes. Yeah. Between Mona and Gurdeep, I definitely got that little boost that I needed. That's
yeah. And you were a performer for how long? Because you seem to have this down. I'm like sitting behind the scenes, like and you're just like, I'm cool as a cucumber.
It is very different to be in front of the camera than to be behind the camera, because you know, there are all sorts of, like we've seen today, that there are all sorts of issues that can pop up. You know, those technical issues are those things that maybe we don't have any control over. I certainly have some control over what comes out of my mouth. Right?
Oh, that's the difference between us. I open it up and I don't know what's going to come out. That's why you're so comfortable.
Yeah, sometimes I put it out there and went, oh, how do I reel this back in? Maybe not. But I think it's, I don't know. I feel like it's a little easier on this end. And since I have spent time, not necessarily in front of the camera, but certainly in front of an audience and in front of a microphone, I have some comfort with that. I also love to meet people.
I know you do. And I'm just going to put this out there. For those of you that love Alicia's music, like you, Chet, I've never actually heard her perform live. I'm really hoping that we can do some kind of Patreon where if we hit a certain amount, she'll perform next year at Earth Day, because so many people want to hear her perform again. And I'm wondering if we can incentivize that. So this is totally off the cuff, and she may possibly strangle me later, but it's already there on video live.
Can't take it back now.
Well, I mean, I could take it back, but
you can edit this part. Yes,
you're going to have the power to do that. However, I hear that from people all the time. When I tell them we're doing an event, they say, "Oh, is Alicia going to perform?" And I say, "Well, I'll ask." That's what I say.
Well, thank you, and thank you for asking, and thank you for the persistence. And what I have been saying is not today, but tomorrow's always a different day, and you never know. I found that I went from performing full time to doing a lot of benefit concerts, and hence the reason Her Many Voices was birthed out of that. And because I thought, well, why not marry the artistic with the artistic with the humanitarian world? And so I have greatly appreciated the fact that this transition, it kind of melded together for a while. And then the more time I was spending doing more humanitarian work, the less I was spending in the arts as far as performing is concerned. I do work with artists on a regular basis, and I appreciate that a great deal.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that I'm not going to pick up my instrument, my vocal as well as the guitar instruments, and come back and do something at some point. And certainly if I have a year heads up, I can start practicing now and maybe not sound like Peter Brady and while he's cracking going through his little transit, because that's where I feel like I'm at right now. My fingertips are soft. There are no more calluses on them, and my voice cracks a great deal these days. So 2 things I just need to work on.
I will say, I said that, and immediately we got a comment that said, yes, we want to hear Alicia sing. So.
Who was that?
Well, so.
Is that you saying that comment, Aisla?
You are so suspicious. What? My goodness. You do talk to the people that I hang. No, I don't know I'm devious.
I hear the voices in your head.
Oh my goodness. No, nobody should listen to that.
The whole committee that goes on, yes.
So Brooke and Desiree should be on in just a minute. And I have a video from them. I don't know if I should start with that or.
We can do one of 2 things. We can either start with their video right now, or we can do another video, the soil video. It's another Conservation International video, and I think it's maybe a minute.
All right,
so.
I'll pop out and get that ready, and then we'll see what happens.
I am a flower. Yes, I'm beautiful. I've heard it before, and it never grows old. I'm worshipped for my looks, my scent, my looks. But here's the thing. Life starts with me. You see, I feed people. Every fruit comes from me. Every potato, me. Every kernel of corn, me. Every grain of rice, me. Me. I know, but it's true. And sometimes I feed their souls. I am their words when they have none. I say I love you without a sound. I'm sorry without a voice. I inspire the greatest of them. Painters, poets, pattern makers. I've been amused to them all. But in my experience, people underestimate the power of a pretty little flower. Because their life does start with me. And it could end without me.
All right, so that wasn't actually the video that I thought we were going to play. We were going to play soil, but how appropriate, flower, right? Going into this next segment with our guests from First Foods today. There's a lot of edible flower out there. A lot of people don't know, and some people, you know, they'll get their food, their plate is delivered to them, presented to them, and then they pull the little flowers off the salad or off the side of the meal, not realizing this is something that you can ingest, and it has given its life to sustain yours. So I would suggest that you do that. You say thank you and consume. Brooke, it is so good to see your face, honey. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm glad you're here. Is Desiree joining us as well, or is it just going to be you?
Desiree's joining us.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. So Brooke Rodriguez, she is one of the co-founders of First Foods, and she's on the East Coast in New York. She's my New York Taino girl. And Desiree is going to be coming in from the West Coast. And, you know, Aisla had asked me, how do we know each other? And I couldn't even say the exact moment. I just know that I completely fell in love with both of you guys and the work that you do and how you walk in this world and the spirit, the space that you carry for others. So I want to thank you for that. Do you remember when we first met? I know it's through Desiree, but I don't even remember that connection from Speaking of Desiree.
Hello, Mijuxis.
Oh, beautiful. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having us.
I'm so glad you're both here. I was just asking Brooke because Aislet asked, how did we meet? And I couldn't remember that initial moment. And I don't know if it was through Indigenous Peoples Day or if it was something else. I just know that we made this connection and I'm very grateful for it. Yeah. So.
You two are certainly cut from the same cloth. And it's a wonderful cloth to be cut from.
Well, Brooke and I are both little Taurians, okay? So we've got that going on for us, which I feel for you and Aisla, because oftentimes that means you got some stubborn people that you got to really work with. And you're very patient and you know how to handle us. So that's a good thing. Would you agree, Brooke?
Yes, 100%. I would agree.
Okay. All right. Well, ladies, I don't want to hold you up on my end. I know that you had a video that you wanted to share as well as doing a presentation. So what would you like to start with first?
The video.
The video. Okay.
Please.
All right. That was beautiful.
Brooke is an amazing, amazing editor and creative. She does a lot of beautiful editing.
I didn't realize that was your work, Brooke. That makes sense. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. I don't like to take the credit though. I feel like it's a collective.
Everything we do is collective, is it not?
Yes, 100%.
I know I might put my name on something, but it's not because it was just me solo. It could have been something my big sister whispered to me 20 years ago, or something. It's a collective. We do nothing alone in this world.
100%. I feel like, especially as Taurans, like we're always paying attention to the herd, and then really our work is a collective consciousness of what has been said. Like you said, like your sister 20 years ago, or even a friend just passing by saying something, and then we just envision it and it happens.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. And so, I want to talk for a brief moment because I know we had discussed, or at least you were talking to Aisla about the differences when we first talked about Indigenous wisdom and what that kind of sparks versus Indigenous knowledge. And for me, when I think about wisdom, I think about what was truly whispered to us as we entered this world, versus knowledge is what we consume during our life and what we learn along the way. So talk about that and how it applies to first foods, please.
Okay, I'll go first. We're so Indian, we're just like, oh, who goes first? But yeah, so I think with Indigenous wisdom and Indigenous knowledge, like how I've always thought wisdom is something that you gain from elders and being around elders and in community. Unfortunately, though, a lot of non-native institutions kind of see Indigenous wisdom as something that is just oral tradition and therefore based in myth and not fact. And they don't take us seriously because of those things. So, And even legally, sometimes it has a stipulation where it's not seen as real or authentic, or in the land of mythology, which I think is really sad because we don't see ourselves that way, right? We know that our elders are wise and they've been here a lot longer than us, and our traditionalists and our doulas and our matriarchs and the community have knowledge, you know? And so for us, like, I sometimes use it interchangeably, but I understand it depends on who I'm talking to and the bias around indigenous knowledge and indigenous wisdom. But with first foods, I think for us, indigenous wisdom and knowledge is really rooted in our ancestral ways and our traditions, that directly come and stem from being in proximity with land culture, with the environment. Like, our cultures are not just cultures that are just, you know, superficial. Our cultures stem from a long relationship with mitigating, you know, resources, land, and spirit in the territories we come from. And sometimes we've come from those territories, you know, over millenniums, not even a millennia, but in the multiples. That's a really long relationship to honor. And so I feel like with our truths and with our facts and our knowledge and our traditions, when it comes to our wisdom, it's really rooted in our ancestors that maintain that relationship so that we can, you know, have also a relationship with the land.
Now, you're people, you're Taino. Where are your people from originally? I know that my father's side of the family, they're Cuban. And Taino peoples are throughout the Caribbean. So
Yeah, there's a lot of what they call Locono, like island Arawaks. So out of the three major groups, there's Garifuna, Kalinago, and then of course Taino, which is across several islands. My specific family, three of my grandparents come from, well, four of my grandparents come from Borinquen, but three of them are indigenous. One is non-native. And they come from Humacao and Arecibo, which used to be most likely Aribonico or like that, but just got Latinized. So Humacao and Arecibo, and then also I have some family in Guamo and close to Caguas as well.
And being out from New York right now, you are on the territory of the Lenape people, the Shinnecock people. There are many different peoples that we have to acknowledge out in New York. I'm thinking you're out on the island, right? Am I correct?
I am on Long Island in a section that they've labeled as Queens, which is Matinacock territory.
Okay.
And we are not that far from Shinnecock territory, but the whole island of Long Island, which includes Brooklyn, Queens, and the counties like Suffolk and Nassau and stuff like that, is called Pamanaki. And that's because Pamanaki means fish. So if you look at the island, it's actually shaped like a fish. So that's where I know they don't really consider sometimes Brooklyn, Queens part of Long Island, but it is on that island. It's all in one territory.
Being a born and raised New Yorker, and my mom lives in Queens, I know, I get it. Yeah. All right, Desiree, tell us about you, your people, and then let's talk first foods and how you two created this and why.
Well, I'm Miwok. Our traditional territory is in California. My family and band is all around Ione. And so we are folks who have been directly impacted by the gold rush and what stemmed from that, which it's really interesting in the partnership between Brooke and myself, where Brooke's nation was first impacted by colonization and then ours would be subsequently last. So we have a really large span of elder input going into the positioning and thought that goes behind programming for First Foods and why we do certain things. One of the things I'm really, really proud that we do is October every year, we do a Surviving Columbus Taino-centric programming entire month because of the erasure around that experience, right? People, even other folks from other nations, we talk about Columbus, the doctrine of discovery, why and how colonization works. But then you know, folks don't know that, like many other Native nations, Taino people even exist, while it's simultaneously a flourishing nation within diaspora. So we do a lot of stuff like that. And we just launched 3 weeks ago our 2021 season with the support of you all at Her Many Voices Foundation. And we have an entire year again of programming by and for Indigenous people and our allies who are ready for a new day for old ways, which means we talk about food sovereignty, land access, and our class participants can really engage in a way that is trying to bridge traditional knowledge with and wisdom with the urban experience, which often there's a bit of a divide there as people have been forcibly relocated, migrated, all of those things. So yeah, that's who I am. I co-host the program with Brooke, but for all purposes, First Foods is Brooke's brainchild, and I'm just on board and really love to be a part of it. It's got me all motivated. I've got my little mobile garden now outside my patio because participating with First Foods has just been super rewarding. So, yeah.
All right. So speaking to First Foods, I want to do a plug right now to make sure people know how to reach you guys. So do you have a website? I see here we've got a Facebook link. Is there Instagram? Is there a website coming up? Or what's the best way to follow you?
Actually, on our page. So that link that's there is our group. Both are feature how to get into class, how to participate, and have lots and lots and lots of content about land reconnection and all sorts of things. So we also have an Instagram. On there is a link tree that we are in as many places as possible, including YouTube. So
okay, we've just covered you up. Oh, thank you. I was going to say we just covered you up, Ezra. I'm good with being covered up at this point. Okay, and I want to note, I believe that this was your artwork, Brooke, the logo that you created for First Foods Podcast. That's you, isn't it?
Yeah, I got really excited and I was like, okay, if we're gonna have a podcast, we gotta have a corn mic. Like we just have to.
It was a brilliant idea and it's beautiful. Yeah. How long have you guys been around?
At this point, I think it's 14 or 15 months.
Okay.
About.
We're going into our second season of programming, and we launched in the middle of the pandemic. Everyone was talking about their victory gardens, and Brooke's over here like, victory gardens, sovereignty gardens, and all of a sudden, First Foods.
That was brilliant, and it was perfect timing, absolutely perfect timing. And I know for us, we've been doing these gardens. We started just about a year ago with Shannon Francis, and who's an indigenous permaculturalist, and you two know, because we thought it was important. You know, here we all are being told, don't leave your home, and we needed to do something, and we needed to occupy our brains and our souls and our children. And what better way than to plant seeds and to tend to gardens and put your hands in the soil. And science will even show you that you put your hands in the soil, it affects your brain chemistry. And boy, do we know, especially after this year, for so many people being isolated, what it could mean in order to be able to do something like grow your own food at home.
Mm-hmm. I've heard, and maybe Brooke, you want to share on this, but I've heard Brooke talk about biophobia and how we're oftentimes removed from our biology and the biology of this world, the living components of this world. And so as folks were going into a pandemic where we were all only plugging in on Zoom, and suddenly that was our only source of connection, it actually fostered more biophobia. So who better and more adequately prepared to respond to that than people who understand what you just explained? You can rise up from a moment of depression by actually interacting with the enzymes in the dirt, you know, and that's something that our communities we understand and know how to respond to, because this isn't the first pandemic that we will outlive. So.
Yes, we have unleashed, we've opened Pandora's box. We really have. So,
yeah, when it comes to biophobia, I think what's really important for us at First Foods is that we start to indigenize wellness. So in order to do that, we have to look at what actually had occurred to our people, whether we were relocated or whether we were put on smaller allotments, like reservations and stuff like that. It restricted land access. So we had a mass, basically land theft that happened to indigenous people across the Americas, and restricting land access and movement, right? So for many years, if you left the reservation, it was legal for settlers to actually kill you. And so this produces a large amount of reliance on food systems that are colonial. Um, and then of course things like killing off the buffalo, and in other nations talking about plains people. But it's important to bring up because biophobia is essentially the fear of the natural world, right? But for me, I don't think it's like a dread thing. What I see is, especially with relocated nations or relocated natives, like urban indigenous people, they might be leery to eat from a tree or to eat from the ground because of, it's not from a store, a supermarket. So our visuals, our optics have changed, and it's created like a cultural palette of the foods we like to eat that has changed, and it's created an optics change in this biophobia. And so for us, indigenizing wellness is basically by promoting pride in traditional foods, that these foods that you only really see in really top end stores or high restaurants are actually indigenous foods, and they've just been just rearranged for us to not be visible to us anymore. So to kind of remove that layer of invisibility and be like, hey, these are traditional foods that kept us alive for literally tens of thousands of years, and be pride and have pride in that. And what we found most in the program with the participants is once they start to equate traditional plant foods, or even hunting of different tree meats and things like that, seasonal foods, they start to get a spark. So even people who, let's say, are very, very picky, they might be like, you know what? That's from I remember like my grandparents using that. I remember the smells, and it's from my territory. It's traditional. I'm going to try it. I'm going to try working with it. And so we've seen an increase in actually enthusiasm to go and try or even forage. Foraging was like a big hurdle for a lot of people to get over because of the biophobia, and because of, basically the US policies of implementing basically land restrictions and privatizing land, and enforcing police against indigenous people to kind of forage in their own territories for a really, really long time. So we've been finding that through programs like First Foods, and through all of our traditionalists that come on and all of our speakers, they are just invigorating like a movement of, not only land back, but food back, and food traditions and food systems back.
Yeah, and also a note of, remember that people will go to the stores and they want those large strawberries, right?
That's how they are.
What has been put into this to create that sort of thing? Stick to the little strawberries. They're the sweet, natural ones that are growing in the backyard kind of thing. Pay attention to what it is that you are ingesting. What are you doing with your food? What are you doing with your soil? How are you tending to these sort of things? Yeah. Where are we on time? I think we've come to.
Yeah, I think we're getting flagged by
I think we're getting flagged, yes.
Next. Thank you so much for having us, Alicia, and for the just continued cheerleading and encouragement and just presence. I really loved this morning that you also started it out with Lee and a prayer like that. So thank you for continuing to model that for us.
I thought it was very important. It was very important. Yeah, we have to have our elders leading, and we have to have that time. Yeah. Ladies, thank you so very much. I look forward to having more time with you.
We do too. Yeah, you guys are just amazing, and we always love working with you. And I couldn't have asked for a better support team and just general human beings to be in our lives because you just are just fabulous people.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, I hope you stick around and watch more because we've got plenty coming up, and we are being flagged, and we have some. I shouldn't say, I guess I can say younger voices from Earth Guardians that are coming on in a moment here. Yeah, so stick around, and thank you so very much. Much love to you both.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay. Now we have soil.
I am the soil. I am in the hills and in the valleys, the farms, the orchards. Without me, humans could not exist. But you treat me like dirt. Do you realize that I am just a thin skin on this planet? And that I'm actually alive? Full of organisms that grow your food? But I am broken, aching, overused, sick. Because of you. You have withered me away to less than half of what I used to be just over 100 years ago. Are you paying attention? I am turning to dust. So maybe you could treat me with a little more respect. I suppose you still want to eat, right?
Thank you for playing another one of the videos here. I believe we finally have, yes, Kona, we finally have you. Oh, it's a pleasure to meet you, honey. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. This is so amazing and so nice. I was just messaging you that right now it's super windy and super active outside. So if anything cuts off, that's the reason why, just connection. But that's technology for you. But I'm so happy to be here.
I'm glad you were able to join us. Yeah. And hopefully the winds will quiet, and they have heard you, and they will quiet down during this time. And you're down in Taos Pueblo?
Taos Pueblo, New Mexico, farthest northern tribe here in New Mexico. So we're like living right up near the Rockies. So we get all of the good weather, all the good seasons.
All right. So tell us about who you are, why you are, what your path is, how you walk, the work that you're doing.
Yeah. So my name is Kona Mirabel. I'm coming obviously from Taos Pueblo, New Mexico as an indigenous native to this land. We also are associated and call each other the Red Willow people. I am a Taos Pueblo youth advocate. I'm all about advocating, walking your talk, inspiring to be inspired, and just really, really respecting yourselves in order to respect others and respect the land that you're on, respecting that, our ancestors fought and sacrificed so much for us to still walk these lands today. And as of right now, I am constantly a student of life. I have dedicated myself to just be of service to the indigenous people of the world. I've officially become a business owner. So I'm officially a proud business owner of Kona's Pharmacy with an F. So instead of a PH, pharmaceutical pharmacy, it's a farm, because I grew up in a farming community. I was literally, as soon as I was born, I was put into the fields, learning how to channel water, learning the importance of rocks where they need to be and where they don't need to be, understanding the importance of traditional crops, traditional seeds, and knowing that you can't touch them or harm them because they've been literally passed on for generations and generations. So growing up in that way, I really found that my calling was, not only plant medicine, but how literally every herb and every plant that we have is associated with an ailment that we have. So whether it be a sore throat, you go outside and you walk 10 steps and you can find a remedy for sore throats, or it be how to recover from addiction or depression or anxiety, which is unfortunately really happening in the youth. So I knew that I needed to figure out a system where I could balance between both worlds. And being an Indigenous person, I feel as though I can definitely say that it is difficult to navigate in both worlds, to go outside and to have to maneuver in the Western white man's world and then go back home and really, really maintain your traditions, continue to practice your culture and your language and the song and the dance. And so that was kind of really what brought me to where I'm at today. And like I said, I'm a student of life. I'm not claiming to know and everything, but I just definitely want to be there for the next generation to say there is light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm here. I'm walking this talk as well. Let's continue this journey together.
And you get to be a wonderful bridge for that next generation. There are younger ones behind you. You get to be a bridge, which is key.
Yeah, 100%. Because, growing up, I really was seeking for that. I was always, it was cool to see the cowboys and Indians movies or whatever, but it was why can't we just be normal? Or why can't we just be in the media just like any other minority? And so, 2020 and 2021, how Indigenous people are really using that and uplifting each other is so beautiful. And I'm so happy to be in this time right now, because I definitely wish that I had that when I was 10, 11, 12, whatever age you are, growing up. And so as long as I can truly hold that, then I'm doing a good job.
Yeah, I would say that your ancestors, your parents, I'm sure they are very proud of the work that you've been doing.
Yeah, yes, thank you. It's definitely a journey, because I just really love working amongst people, whether they're 20 years older than me or 20 years younger than me, and that sometimes may be my teachers or my parents, because I do believe that we are all human. We can all learn from each other, whether you're, like I said, 20 years or older or younger. We learn from each other, and so for a good example is I'll learn something from my parents, and then they'll teach me something and I'll teach them something, and vice versa with my siblings that I have. And it's just a beautiful circle of life.
I am just, Aisla just let me know that we have a minute, and because of the confines of social media, they have us boot over to a different link.
Oh no.
Yes. So Aisla, I know we've got just maybe 30 seconds now. What should we do here? Can you jump on and make it clear?
I've never been in this platform, so it's totally new. I'm like, ah.
Yeah, it's new for everyone, including with us, and we used it for a particular reason. But we are definitely finding that how it operates and how places like Facebook and other places want to operate with it, sometimes they don't want to play so well together. So we have these little challenges. Okay. Aisla says, I need to launch the other room. Okay. So can you, Kona, can you see